Pastor, and I'm here at Zedlock Junior High today with Principal Boyers. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Okay, I have a couple questions for you. What made you want to become a principal?
I think just early on in life, I had some opportunities to do some different leadership activities through sports, and I kind of enjoyed that, and I love teaching. And so once that opportunity kind of emerged, it was kind of a neat way to put the two pieces together to lead and make a difference.
That's great. What is your favorite part about working with middle school students?
I think they're a little bit different than high school students in the fact that they still want to listen for the most part, and they're malleable, where high school students sometimes, in my previous role as a high school assistant principal, were a bit more difficult to change some behaviors with. So I think that's a neat opportunity to kind of mold their experiences.
If you could teach any subject, what would it be and why?
When I did teach, my favorite subject to teach was social studies. I just have a passion for history, and I grew up in the Gettysburg area, so the Civil War is kind of a big piece of just naturally where I grew up.
That's cool. What do you do on a day-to-day basis here?
On a day-to-day basis, a lot of things. Discipline obviously is a portion of my day, but just more so driving quality instruction for our classrooms and making sure that our students are learning is an important piece. And so, that takes on a pretty big portion of my day.
What is your educational background?
I got my undergraduate degree in elementary and special education from Waynesburg. I went to the University of Pittsburgh to obtain my master's degree and my principal certification, and then lastly I earned my doctoral degree and my superintendent papers at Point Park University.
That's awesome. Since we've started Rachel's Challenge, what difference have you seen in the kids here?
I think one of the big differences is just the buy-in and the positivity. We have, what's kind of cool to O-Block that I don't think other schools are doing, is we have some shout-out messages where our students and teachers can shout each other out, and so throughout our TVs in the building you'll see those displayed. And they're pretty authentic and pretty cool, so it's pretty neat to see how both teachers, staff, and students are recognizing each other and for their good deeds.
That's really good. When it comes to discipline, how do you approach that with your students?
I think it's just about being firm, fair, and consistent. So when behaviors are repeated, there's a equal consequence for the behavior that may have happened that was similar last week, and just having consistency and working with Mr. Hartman, our assistant principal, to have a consistent approach on how we provide consequences.
And the last question we have is a fun question. It is, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
That's a pretty cool question. I think if I had a superpower, I'd probably have the ability to fly, because I live like 45 minutes away, so I drive 35 miles one way, so it'd be kind of cool to get home to see my family and my kids much quicker than having to drive to work every single day and back home.
That would be a good power. Well, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Now let's send it back to Mr. Broad in the studio.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Corson here with Ms. Fight, the Center Elementary Principal, and we're going to ask her a couple questions today. So, how long have you been a principal here?
So I started the school year 21-22 as the interim principal and was awarded the full-time position in January.
What classes have you taught, and what was your favorite class to teach?
I've taught all grades from kindergarten through 6th grade in Charlotte, North Carolina, South Florida, and City of Pittsburgh, and my favorite is 2nd grade.
Is this the first school that you've been a principal at?
Yes, I was the assistant principal at O-Block prior to arriving here at Center.
If you had to choose a class to teach, what would it be?
Definitely would be 2nd grade again. I love reading, writing, not so good at math, but I'd figure it out in 2nd grade.
What made you want to become a principal?
I think just having the opportunity to impact more than just a classroom of students, being able to work with an entire building and move a group of students forward on a bigger scale.
What is your favorite event that the whole school does and why?
So I'm really new to Center, so I'm not really sure just yet. We've had a couple different events, but COVID's kind of prohibited us from doing it the normal way. But I really enjoyed the gingerbread contest that the PTO hosted this past winter. So.
Nice. What do you like to do in your free time?
I have 2 dogs that I'm a little obsessed with, so I spend a lot of time with them. And I like to do yoga, meditate, kind of ground myself from the days here.
Thank you for answering my questions. Now back to the studio with Mr. Broad.
So I'm here with Mr. Fischel. How are you doing, Mr. Fischel?
I'm doing good, thank you.
So we have a couple of questions today, and the first one is, what did you go to college for, and what school did you go to?
Well, I received my undergraduate in special education from Slippery Rock University, and then I went to Carnegie Mellon for my master's degree.
Do you think your education helped you in your career today?
I guess the answer to that is yes, because you can't be a principal of a school unless you have a certain amount of education and certificates. So the answer is definitely yes. But to go a little bit beyond that, I think that an education allows you to relate to people, more people. So my education allows me to talk to students about science and math and English and art. And anything like that that allows you to engage with people and connect with them, I think is important to the position.
All right, so how was the transition from being a special education teacher to being a principal at a middle school?
Well, I spent the first 23 years of my career at O Block Junior High. Before I was at O Block Junior High, I taught math at Schumann Center in the county jail. So the transition going from there to O Block was a little difficult. But once I was at O Block, it was a natural progression. I was a special education teacher, then I was the dean of students, then I was the assistant principal, then the principal at O Block Junior High. So it was a nice, smooth transition.
So you were a principal at the high school and junior high. What did you like better and why?
Better. Well, I'll tell you right now, when I came to the high school, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I had been a junior high principal. I never planned on leaving O Block. They asked me to come up to the high school. And when I got here, I was a little bit nervous about how it was all going to go. But my favorite part of being a principal is working with the kids. And you guys were my kids to begin with. You know, I mean, I've been with the senior class for 6 years. So when I came up here, it was natural. It felt like it was supposed to be. But I really like working with high school age kids. I like being able to tell stories, like I shared with Paul a little bit about joining the military, and I like to be able to help students and mentor them on their next step in life.
So during your time at the middle school, there was a Friday, you did the Friday books. Is there any memorable books that you remember?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of ones that I enjoyed. I loved doing the December holiday series. We would cover books on Christmas and Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and the winter solstice. But by far, my favorite was the one that we did the closest to Halloween, which was the Hansel and Gretel story. We had to give a disclaimer when we read that book because it was gruesome. And this is no lie. We had a student pass out one year when I was reading that book. And so we would tell people at the beginning, look, if you're not into gruesome stuff, you might want to step out in the hallway. So that was probably my favorite.
So we heard that you have taken over the role of the AD. How do you think that will go?
It's gone well. We had a vacancy in the position. Mr. Shoup, who was just a great job, or did a great job, had to leave unexpectedly, and so I had to fill in. And my goal was to make sure that we got games for students, that we had schedules ready. I didn't want anybody to be impacted negatively. You understand what I mean? I wanted to make sure that our students were still benefiting from our sports programs. And so far, so good.
Lastly, if you could choose any superpower, what would it be?
superpower. I guess I'd like to fly like Superman. I mean, I think that would be pretty cool, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Official. That's all for today.
Thank you, Colin.
Hello, I'm Cam Wickline with Plum High School TV Productions. I'm here with Interim Principal at Pivot Elementary, Michael Gauntner. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Cam. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I have a couple questions for you. Where did you go to college and what was your major? And what made you decide on that major?
I started off at Duquesne University and then I transferred my sophomore year to Slippery Rock University. I majored in elementary education. My decision for that was based on I had a couple great teachers in high school and elementary school who believed in me, even though I may have not always been the most well-behaved student. I did have a lot of individuals that took a big interest in me and helped guide me through that process, especially at the secondary level. And they were a big reason why I look back at high school and thank those teachers for helping me out. And it meant a lot to me. I wanted to give the same thing back to my students, and that's what drove me to go into education.
What was the best part about being a principal at the high school?
The students. It was overall the camaraderie with the students, a lot of student spirit. Obviously, academics always plays a big part in things, but having the opportunity to engage with 1,200 students throughout the day, different grade levels, ranging from ages 15 to 18, the conversations were genuine, and it was nice to take an interest in those students and be able to watch them grow academically from their freshman year to their senior year, that they became young adults.
What is different about being a principal at the high school versus Pivot?
Big kids, big problems, little kids, little problems. The biggest difference is keeping kids in the classrooms, I guess, at the high school. They like to find their way to the library, to the cafeteria to find additional snacks, the snack cart, whereas the elementary, they're all self-contained, and that's not necessarily a concern when someone's in the restroom, say, for 30 minutes.
Do you miss anything about the high school?
I love the start time and I love the end time, but overall it was the students. I still get to attend the sporting events and after school events. The difference is about having those conversations during the day to see how their week went, how practice has been, responding to maybe when they just had the previous night to say, hey, way to go, it was awesome. So there's a difference there, not having the interaction as I did before. That's the one thing I do miss. I miss the staff as well, but students were the number one priority.
What made you want to become a part of administration instead of a teacher?
In a classroom, I had the opportunity to affect anywhere from like 25 to 30 students at any given time, have a meaningful impact. Whereas when I got into administration, I felt I could have a bigger impact on my students. So instead of just maybe affecting that group of 30 students, the impact I would have at this elementary and the secondary level would be a much greater impact, anywhere from, depending on the number of students, 300 to 1,200 students, as Plum Center High School had.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Go to bed early. You stayed in school, nice job, but spend a little bit of extra time studying, and don't drive so fast.
I drive a little quick too, so I know what you mean. What's your favorite school lunch?
Pepperoni Bosco sticks, but they don't have them anymore. They just do the regular Bosco sticks with just the cheese in them. But a close second is going to be walking tacos with the churros.
Walking tacos are fantastic. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I guess if I could predict the future, and know in advance what was going to happen, I think I could have retired a little bit earlier.
That was Mr. Michael Gauntner, interim principal here at Pivot Elementary School. Now back to the studio.
How you guys doing? I'm Michael Oleski here interviewing Dr. Hyland here for TV3 class. So how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So first question, as many people would like to know, how do you choose 2-hour delays?
I don't choose the 2-hour delays. They choose me. So normally what happens is my director of transportation gets up around 2 o'clock or 2:30 and starts to drive the roads in Plum if, in fact, the weather's, necessitates that he does that. And so he'll drive around to make sure that everything is either safe or not safe. We have to make the decision to call a 2-hour delay or to call a cancellation by 5:30 because the bus drivers start to come in to get their buses. So normally around 5 o'clock, he and I will talk. He'll give me a report on how the roads are doing. He'll talk with the borough to see what status they have. Like, for example, during one of the 2-hour delays or one of the cancellations, the borough had 2 drivers that were missing, and so they couldn't get around to all the roads. And so that caused us the opportunity either to have the 2-hour delay or to have the cancellation. So he calls me around 5 or so, and we make a decision by 5:30 whether it's the right call or not. What's kind of interesting is we have, as you guys have group texts, the superintendents have group texts too. And they're really funny, actually, because everyone's afraid, some people don't want to make the call, and then other people do want to make the call, and then we're all in it together. So eventually we all have to make a decision about what we think is best for our students and for our faculty and for our staff to make sure that they're safe. It's always based off of, do we think they're going to be safe? And we tend to err on the side of making sure that everybody's safe.
I feel like when people are on the outside looking in, we don't realize how difficult and how complex it is on making a decision like that, but I understand how the whole thing works.
It's the worst decision I have to make because I'm wrong 50% of the time. So with some people I'm right, the other people think it's a great decision. So it is what it is. As long as our kids are safe, that's all I care about. I can take the heat. I'm used to it. So. Absolutely.
As a former principal, what are the main differences between being a principal and a superintendent?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this should make it easy. As a building principal, I controlled a budget of about $200,000. As a superintendent, the budget's $65 million. So that's a significant difference just in financial, but also you have an opportunity from a superintendent standpoint to have a bigger impact on not only like a high school where I was that had 1,300 kids in it, but now I have 3,500 kids that we can really make an impact, whether it's the new fields that we have out there, the new track, the new lighting system, whether it's a new math or ELA curriculum. Those are the things I like because I know we're doing positive things for kids, and if you can impact kids in a positive way, that's what this job's all about. And I guess the short answer to that is I think we're impacting more kids as a superintendent than I was as a building principal, and I love doing that.
Being as busy as you are, how are you able to still get the interactions with teachers and students every day?
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. It's hard to get out of this office, and you have to force yourself to get up because you can be a slave to your computer and the email. I mean, I get dozens and dozens of emails every day, and you want to make sure that you get back to people so that you're being responsive to your community. But you can't forget about why you're here. And the people who are watching this don't see behind the camera, there are 5 kids that are part of the TV productions program. And I actually get an opportunity to talk with these guys and find out that they're going to college and where they're going and what they're doing with their lives. And that's actually the best part of the job. And I wish I was better at it. I strive to be better at it. But it's tough. It really, the honest answer is it's really tough.
Coming on in 2018, how'd you first hear about the opening job for the Plum Superintendent?
So unfortunately, a lot of it was in the news. I knew that was going on. And I had been looking I was starting to get bored as a building principal, and I was looking for something bigger than being a building principal. But I knew I didn't want to be an assistant superintendent, because I kind of know sometimes how difficult it is to be assistant superintendent. If you get a bad superintendent, it can be really rough, and I wanted no parts of that. So I just wanted to be able to take a shot and see if I could do it on my own. I felt I had enough leadership skills, and I came from a district that was huge. I mean, North Allegheny has 8,000 kids in it. It's a huge district. And so I think I had some preparation in terms of how a big system works. And, I probably had more confidence in myself than I probably should have. And I rolled the dice, and I think it's worked out well. I'll let the community decide whether they think it's worked out well. But I'm very proud of the work that our team has done since we came here, and just love working for these kids.
Well, as a student, I think you're doing a fantastic job.
You call me Brad Pitt, so I have to question your ability to make that decision.
Operating through the pandemic, how have you been able to manage the daily obstacles that are thrown your way every day?
The pandemic has been really tough. I think it's been tough on everybody. I think it's been tough on the kids. I know it's been tough on the teachers. And I think sometimes people forget that it's really tough on the administrators as well. As an example, that first year when we had the pandemic and that summer afterwards, my administrators pretty much did not take any time off, because we would plan and then the state would change what was going to happen. And then we'd plan again, and then the numbers would change. And so it's been constant 2.5 years of just decision after decision after decision that you've seen how things are in the news. People are really angry, and they take one side. You're for masks, you're against masks. And all we're trying to do is trying to the best of our ability, based on the knowledge that we have. We're just trying to keep kids safe, and people disagree with what that is, and I respect it and I understand it. But what I learned early on is that I'm not going to please everybody, and as much as we try and make everybody happy, I know I wasn't going to do that, and my team, we weren't going to do that. So you just do what you think is the right thing, and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. I would say, for the most part, my humble opinion is I think we did pretty well. But I'll leave others to judge that for themselves.
From a student, I feel like you guys are, I feel like teachers, even administrators, you guys just get overlooked because of the pandemic and, how it's hitting you guys. And it's just, you're right, everything just changes so much with the CDC and the guidelines, all this stuff like that. You're right, it's so hard to judge, and it just crushes you guys.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, and that means a lot coming from kids, that they recognize it. And most kids are pretty good. They can spot a phony pretty quickly. The adults are the ones that have the problem with that. But the kids have also suffered from this. And I'm a little fearful of what's going to happen with our kids later on down the line. And, we've put some things in place, like we've added 3 social workers, things like that I think are really, really important. And at the end of the year, we have a survey that we give to all the parents. We give to the kids in 4th grade. We give to the kids in 6th grade and 8th grade. And we have, 6 seniors here. We want to hear your feedback about how things went. What can we do better as a district to make the kids' experience the best it can possibly be around here? And so I really appreciate you saying that, but our job is to be here for kids and do good things for kids. And if we're doing that, then we can take the criticism. But thank you for that's a really nice compliment.
Absolutely. I feel like everything just comes with a bit of criticism nowadays. You just got to learn how to roll with it. Yep. Was there any specific reason you wanted to become a superintendent, or did you just feel sort of drawn to the job?
I was bored. I was seriously, I was bored as a building principal, and I just didn't want to be an assistant superintendent, and I wanted a new challenge, and I took on a challenge. That's it. That was basically about it. I just didn't have anything else to prove in where I was before, and And that's it. That's about as easy.
Such a simple yet effective answer.
You say effective. I don't know if other people watching will think that.
During the summer, what goes into making sure the upcoming year goes as well and as smoothly as possible?
It's my team. It's my team. You know, we have 6 goals that we go by. You've all seen it in the logo that we have, and we live by those 6 goals, and we plan for those 6 goals. And the hope is that I kind of equate my job to like a conductor. I have my team. I have a lot of people that play an instrument, and they play it really, really well. And my job is just to conduct them, to make sure that everything's going in the right direction. And so I can't take any of the credit. The credit has to go to my administrators and the department leaders. And really, too, I think the board needs to get more credit than they get, because I will tell you, the board members that I work with, they genuinely care about the kids in this district. And so when we're all working, what I say, I use this example with my administrators. I'll say something like this. You know, if you're trying to punch through a wall, it's really hard to do it like this. But every time you get one a little closer and you get them together, you have a better chance of punching through that wall. And that pandemic has been the wall that we've been trying to get through, in addition to all the other things we're doing. And so when we're like this and we're aligned and we're together, we can do a lot of damage together, positive damage, if that makes sense.
I think it makes perfect sense. What is your role in the hiring process, and how do you determine the best candidate for a job that is open?
Yeah, so we just went through, we just hired a new athletic director last night. And so generally what happens with almost all of our interview process, especially starting with teachers, one of the things that I found out when I came here, which kind of shocked me, is that the teachers were not involved in the hiring process. And that, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Teachers aren't involved. Like, they're the best at what they do in the classroom. They're the content experts. They're the delivery experts. Why are they not involved in the interview process? So we started having teachers involved in the interview process. In fact, we just hired a principal over at Center Elementary, Miss Fight. We had teachers involved in hiring a principal. So what we do is we usually go through 3 to 4 rounds. So I'll just work you through what we did with the AD position. So with that position, we had a first round interview. We had administrator, we had myself, and we had assistant superintendent, building principal, and we had 2 coaches involved in that as well, because we want to get feedback from the coaches about what they think they want in an athletic director. So we went through that first round, and what we do is we score it. We have prescribed questions that we ask, and everybody gets equal say in the process. So the 2 coaches that were involved in the process, they have just as much say as I do in the process. And so we all write down our scores. So let's just say in the first round there were 10 questions, and we rate them 1 through 4. 4 is an excellent answer, and 0 is an awful answer, right? And everybody puts down their score. And then at the end, we tally them up and we put them in a spreadsheet. And so there were 10 people that were in the first round of the interview process. And then what we do is we find that natural break. And generally that's what happens. There's a natural break in the scoring. And so the top 3 went to the second round. And at the second round, we had what I refer to as my superintendent's cabinet. All the directors, the assistant superintendent, myself, we had Mr. Fischel involved in this one. And we go through the same exact process, and everybody gets the same question, and we score them again. And then if there's a natural break, that person will come to me. Those 1 or 2 people may come to me. And so you always have to have a second and third candidate potentially available if the first one bails out or the second one bails out. And that happens sometimes. And so, and they sit, and I will say for the AD position, I had a couple interviews that went an hour and a half for both people. Like, we don't mess around. We're trying to bring in people who are good people, who are qualified. And, you know, there's this notion, do you bring people in from out of the area, in the area? All we care about is, are they good for kids, and are they the most qualified based off of where we are as a district. Are they a right fit for us? And we try and make it as much as a science as we possibly can, but there's also an art to it as well. But we have to be very careful that we follow prescribed procedures to make sure that it's fair for everybody. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, yeah.
You wanted, but
Hey, I mean, very complex. It's just so, it really does just go over all our heads how complex and all, like, crazy this whole process is, you know what I mean?
I think it's important that people know that we're just trying to find the best people we possibly can for the kids in this district. That's it. I don't care where you live. I don't care, how many kids you have. I don't care about anything. I want to know, are you the best candidate for our kids? And then the final part of that process, I don't make the decision who it is. What I do is I recommend the candidate to the board. The board is the one who actually votes. So the last part of that process is we will bring the person in and we'll give the board an opportunity to ask some questions of that person and feel good. The board has the resume. The board, so the board can ask questions if they want to ask questions. I will say, since I've been here, I'm the one responsible for making the final recommendation, but I do it based off of what the team says. But I'm the one who has to make the final recommendation to the board. Thus far, the board has never rejected one of our recommendations. I think because there are some people that may. It's like there's 9 people on the board. It could be a 7-2 vote. It could be an 8-1 vote. It could be a 9-0 vote. And so, but for the most part, every person that we've recommended has gotten hired. We want to keep that streak going, and I think that's happening because we're bringing very good people to the board for them to vote on. So that's the process. It's it's complicated, but it's thorough and it's detailed and it's consistent, which is important.
Sounds good. Finally, a very fun question to wrap things up. If you had one superpower, what would it be and why?
I would heal sick people. That's what I would do.
Pretty good one. That's I feel like that's not a common one. I like that. That's good.
I know some sick people that I'd really like to heal. So
well, that's fantastic. This has been Dr. Hyland. I appreciate you having this interview with me. We'll send it back to the studio.
I'm Ryan Coughlin, and today I'm here with Mr. Oletta. We'll be asking a few questions. What led you into the tech field?
I started with websites and programming and just gained a general interest in it and didn't quit messing around with computers since I've been in 9th grade. So it's been something that I've always been interested in, and I just followed through with it.
Kind of another question along the same lines. Did you always want to do something with technology?
Yes, I changed paths because it's such a broad field, but I started off programming, went into networking systems, and then became a director. But my passion is for the networking side of it, but I did start off in programming with websites. But I've always been interested in computers since about 9th grade, and like I said, it was something I knew early on that I wanted to do for a long time.
What is your everyday routine here?
That's a tough question. So my day could start off doing one thing, and then I can get turned into 3 other things. So and that's one of the things that I love about the field is you're not doing the same thing every day. So I'm a fan of not doing that. But I typically try to operate off my calendar. So I attend the meetings that I have to attend to collaborate with our different groups, our building administrators and our central admin and our teachers and staff. And then I will work on the back end of things. I'll make sure my department's running efficiently, and then we make sure the district's secure and the infrastructure's running. And from anywhere from setting up tests to setting up applications, new users. There's a ton in the technology field, as I'm sure you guys are aware, being young, being students, and being in that technology 21st century environment. So my day, it's everywhere. It goes everywhere, and it's fun. It's very fun.
What was your favorite part of working in the tech department?
my favorite part of my job just in general is just helping people, being able to make an impact on teaching and learning, and then walking through the hallway and seeing what that impact is. And from a higher level too, there's a lot of things that I think students and even staff don't see that we do behind the scenes that give you guys the ability to learn every day. So I love helping people. It's my passion.
What would you say to somebody who wanted to get in your type of field, who wanted to do something with technology?
I always tell anybody that wants to get into the technology field to, it's such a broad field. There's so many different avenues. So I always tell them to learn everything. Whether you're going in for cybersecurity or just computer science degree, I would tell them to be prepared to take certificates. It's a certificate-heavy field, and then to understand what technology is from the top down. So know your systems, know your networking, know how it all works together, so that whenever you get into the field, you can understand it better as a whole.
For our last question, a bit of a fun one. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
I didn't get to travel much as a kid, so that's a tough question for me. I haven't been a lot of places, so I would go anywhere, but I'm at a point in my life where I'd go anywhere, but anywhere with my kids. I just recently went down to Atlanta with my nephew. My nephew's a big-time baseball player, so I'm willing to travel anywhere as long as it's like I got to go down there with my family. So if I'm with my family, with the people I love, people I care about, I'm willing to go there, Hershey, it doesn't matter. As long as I think it's more the company you keep rather than where you're at.
Of course. Hey, thank you for your time today, Mr. Oletta.
Absolutely. Thank you both.
This has been Ryan Coughlin, Mr. Oletta.
Hi, I'm AJ Butari, and I'm a TV3 student here at Plum High School. And today I'm interviewing Mr. Lizzero. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Awesome. All right, first question. What did your role include before becoming a principal?
So my role before I took over the job as principal was as a department leader and a teacher. So that would involve obviously instructing your students, but it also involves helping the other teachers in your department. So I was the science department leader, so helping them figure out how their curriculum is going to work, helping them get resources, just kind of making sure that everything's running smoothly for them so that they can focus on their instruction. And not have to worry about, like, do I have the resources coming in? Do I have the materials I need for, like, a lab next year? That's kind of what my role was.
And how did you prepare to become a principal?
So I went to the University of Pittsburgh through their principal certification program, which was a year-long program where they really talked a lot about making sure you're viewing your school not just as your classroom, but as the entire school and all the pieces involved. And that means not only just the classrooms, it means the hallways, the bathrooms, the gyms, every aspect of it, so that when you're making a decision, you're making sure you're thinking about how everybody's being affected, not just that one group.
And where did you go to school to become a teacher? And what kind of classes did you take?
So I went to the University of Pittsburgh as well. My undergrad was just biology, and then I went with my master's to earn my teaching certification. It was a master's in the arts of teaching, and the classes really focused a lot on student development, thinking about how the brain operates, because my class is actually focused on elementary, so it was more on like the elementary brain and how young students learn behaviors, how to teach them how to act appropriately in the classroom, how to handle conflicts between their peers, and all those types of things, which I've actually found to be highly effective here at the high school, because there's new conflicts that arise that students haven't had to deal with before. So knowing those strategies has really, I think, helped students kind of figure out how to navigate their way through high school.
And what does your daily schedule look like?
There is no schedule as a building principal. It's just whatever the day kind of brings you. You know, you have things like longer term you have to do, where you're focusing on, I've got to make sure we're ready for the end of the year, like graduation and everything like that. But, you know, then there's also just I'm walking down the hallway and a student's upset and they need somebody to talk to. So like I'll stand there and talk with them for a couple minutes. So like it's just whatever the day brings plus your long-term stuff, and you're just kind of juggling it all. There's a lot more meetings than I ever thought there would be, and they go a lot longer, but they're very important meetings. They're not something that's like wasting time. They're meetings about helping students, or they're meetings about how do we make the building better for all of the students and teachers so that it is a place where people want to be and a place where students are excited to go. And it's a lot of stuff to try, especially after the pandemic, to make people feel welcome and feel like they are gaining something from being here.
And what is your favorite part of the day?
My favorite part of the day is either the beginning of the day when all the students are coming in, because you kind of get to talk and like chat with them, or like in the lunches, because you can kind of walk around and once again have conversations with students. That's one of the things that as a teacher you're able to have a lot of conversations with a small group of students, but as a principal you're not able to have those long conversations you might have had. So like those are the times where I can try to have conversations and just check in on students, you know, try to see what they're up to, get a feel for how they're feeling about the building, because if the building's not working for you in some form or fashion, we want to know. We want to make sure that if there's changes we can do to make this place better, that we know about it so we can go about trying to implement them.
And what are some things you look forward to in the future?
Things I look forward to in the future. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we continue to bounce back as a community and as a school from these past couple of years. I'm so impressed with the amount of work the students have put forth and the teachers have put forth to try and make the learning meaningful and to try to keep that effort going. And I know it's been a very hard couple years for everybody, and we all know that. But I'm excited because I've seen the work that the students are putting in and the teachers are putting in, and I'm excited to see how that's going to pay off down the line.
And what are some things that are required for your position as a principal?
So what's required for my position is a principal certification, which usually has to come after a bachelor's degree and usually a master's degree. So there's like multiple steps to get there. It also, a lot of districts and most districts want you to have teaching experience just because they want you to know how a classroom operates and how that stuff works before you take that next step into being a principal.
And if you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
A superpower. This is a tough one. Like, I think I'd go with super speed, because as a principal, what I found is that there's just never enough time in the day to get everything done you want to get done. And so like if I could like get places really quickly, I'd get so much more done, and we'd be able to do so much more. That was like, oh, I got to walk all the way over here. I got to walk all the way over there. Like, so if I had super speed, I think that's what I would go with.
All right. Mr. Lizzero, thank you for interviewing us today.
Thank you very much.
And I'll see you back in the studio.
Hi, my name is Alexa Donaldson, and I'm a senior at Plum Senior High School. Today I'm joined by Dr. Shulo, who is the principal here at Holiday Park. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Alexa, thanks.
How did you get started with this job?
Well, I got started with this job a long time ago. I've been in the district since the year 2000, and I taught for 5 years at Zedlock Junior High School and Plum Senior High School. And then right around the end of 2005 into 2006, I had an opportunity to become an assistant principal at Zedlock. And then since 2008, I've been the principal here at Holiday Park.
What inspired you to be a principal?
Thinking back then, my biggest inspiration was administrators I had growing up as a student, but even up to this point today, I would have to say my family was attempting to be a lifelong learner and really trying to install that in my family. I'd have to go back and point to them.
What is your greatest accomplishment and why?
That's a great question. I want to say collectively, I feel every day my greatest accomplishment is knowing that I had somehow, some way, an impact in a student's educational career. And not just here at the schools, but also working outside of the schools in various capacity and sport organizations. But I would say collectively, again, just knowing somehow, some way, I helped to shape a student's journey here in Plum Borough.
Now, I know this is quite some time ago, but how would you describe the transition between the old Holiday Park and the new Holiday Park?
Yeah, it certainly was a process. Going from an older building to a new building, first off, was exciting for everyone. But there were also those who had the memories of the former Adelaide Stevenson Elementary and the former Holiday Park. So as a district, we had a wonderful opportunity to work with parents, teachers, administrators, and our students. And at that time in 2015, we put together a really nice detailed process that included some orientation, some grand openings, but we wanted everyone to somehow, some way play a part in it. So we believe we were successful in that, and we had to overcome some learning while all being under this new roof. But we believe that helped pave the way to where we are today.
Can you name a few of your goals for the remainder of this year?
Well, I would say certainly to just excel each and every day. We really, here at Holiday Park, our daily mission is to work hard, dream big. And we've had that mission now for a long time. And we stress to our students to achieve something each and every day, whether that was in math class, they finally nailed algebraic expressions, or in reading class, they were able to respond correctly to a TDA. And then there's the social aspect too. So as a community, I would say we want our students to finish strong, end strong, knowing that they're equipped to move to the next level of their education.
When COVID had first hit, what was the biggest challenge that Holiday Park faced?
Oh boy, it's as I reflect back on that, I think at that time was just the health and the mental health of everyone, and more so our students, but also our staff. And we obviously, like yourself, we learned a lot from that day, but I think academics took a back seat, and it was more so just the emotional well-being of everyone involved. And collectively as a group, we worked very hard, we worked very strategic, obviously to put in place the online learning platform, and we really refined that up to today. But I think nothing was more refreshing, and I'm sure you guys would agree, when we had that opportunity to finally offer live instruction to our students. So again, I think going back to that start, I would say just health and the mental health of all.
What has been your favorite thing about working within the Plum community?
Well, working here and living here, such as today, is the opportunity for students to come back and visit and share their stories, share their growth of when they were here, whether it was when we were a K-6 building or a 5-6 building. I really enjoy that aspect. Sometimes I lose track of those students, and I've been in this long enough now. Some of my former students, even going back to my early days of teaching, are now teachers here in the school district and have their own families. So first off, that speaks a bit about my age, but I overly enjoy that, seeing how our students turn out as they progress in their journey.
What do you like to do with your family in your free time?
Anything family. We're my wife and I and my 2 teenage boys were very active. We enjoy doing things outside. We enjoy going to the beach, any type of amusement park. I overly enjoy that, but just anything family related outside of our job here.
And the final question is, if you could have any superpower, what power would you choose?
Oh my. Well, I'm a big Marvel fan, and I really like Dr. Strange, so I think the opportunity with, as Dr. Strange does, to stop time and even go back in time would be awesome. Or vision, to have some type of mind stone, would be fantastic.
I agree with that answer. Thank you, Dr. Shulo, for taking the time out of your day to answer a few questions. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Hello, I'm Jake Bell, a TV3 student here at Plum High School, and I'm here with Ms. Denise Zedlock, the Assistant Superintendent for the high school. How are you doing, Ms. Zedlock?
I'm doing very well this morning. Thanks for interviewing me, Jake.
Yeah, of course. Is it okay if we ask you a few questions?
Absolutely.
All right, so how has your 28 years of administration experience in southwestern Pennsylvania prepared you for your position at Plum?
Well, actually, I've been an administrator for 31 years and in education for 40. I'm old. I have a wealth of experience. I started out as an assistant high school principal, became a middle school principal, a high school principal, an academic principal, a director of curriculum and instruction. I left public education for about 7 years when my youngest child was very sick and was in the private industry with the Watson Institute that works with special needs children, and I was the vice president of educational services for Presley Ridge, and I oversaw education programs for deaf, severely behaviorally disturbed children, children in an approved partial hospital program that had a lot of mental health issues, and oversaw that in 7 different states. And then returned to public education as an assistant superintendent in a neighboring school district for 7.5 years, and then came to Plum as the assistant superintendent and the director of human resources. So I think that I have a lot of different experiences in a variety of programs that really make me very well balanced to be able to perform the job responsibilities that I have here at Plum.
So it looks like you kind of saw it all there. As an assistant superintendent, that obviously comes with a lot of responsibility. Describe me a typical day as an assistant superintendent.
Well, I think in any educational leadership position, it's about people and serving the students first and foremost. That's why I got into education, because of my love for educating young people. I started out as a teacher in West Palm Beach, Florida, and then just continued to pursue my education. I think it's about recognizing what is best for kids and then helping to orchestrate the curricular programs, the extracurricular programs. As the assistant superintendent, I work with the department leaders and the high school administration in creating new courses for our students. We look at refining current programs because we really want to make sure that students get the most out of their high school career, because it is the next step either to a 2-year or 4-year program in the college or university, or entering the military or the world of work, or other technical fields, because the technical fields, the needs in vocational technical education, try to get a plumber and you're paying an arm and a leg. So there's great money to be made in technical programs as well as 4-year degree programs. So it really is looking at the programming. But I also, as the assistant superintendent, excuse me, I oversee pupil services, which involves special education, all of the school counselors, all of the social workers, to really make sure that they're providing counseling service to students, that the social workers are dealing with the mental health needs or food instability, housing instability, hooking up parents with outside resources that they may need. I oversee the school psychologists who do a lot of the testing for students to be identified as special needs or gifted and oversee those programs. I also oversee the nurses and make sure that the nursing services, and that has been a very big job during the pandemic and during COVID. I oversee all of the district policies and update policies when the law changes or the school code changes. In my capacity as both as the human resource director and the assistant superintendent, I oversee all of the staffing in the district. So not just the teachers, but all of the paraprofessionals, the transportation. I post jobs. We go through interview protocols. We hire employees in the district. We onboard them. When they retire or resign, we do a lot of offboarding. I handle benefits, workers' compensation, job descriptions, leaves of absence, whether it be for FMLA, which is family medical leave, when any employee has an issue. I oversee the employee assistance program. We all have struggles, and sometimes our teachers or our staff struggle with mental health issues, with family issues, with aging parents or illness on their own. Dr. Walsh and I combine do all of the professional development for all of our employees on an annual basis. I conduct investigations, disciplinary matters, and just the gamut. But every day it's dealing with people. And so I think you really have to have good people skills. You have to be empathetic. You have to be caring. You have to be a good listener. But it really is those interactions. My favorite part of my job is my ability to walk around the schools and pop in classrooms and see kids learning and teachers teaching. And that's my favorite part. Whenever I have a stressful day, I just go out and I visit the classrooms because that grounds me as to why I got into education in the first place.
Out of any possible position in the education field, what made you choose to become an administrator?
Well, I had some really good mentors in my tenure in education, and they saw leadership in me, and I think a lot of that came from my involvement as an athlete. I was a Division I athlete, and then I was a Division I and Division II assistant coach. At one point in time, I thought I was going to be a collegiate coach. I was a swimmer at the University of Pittsburgh, and I think the discipline that I learned from being a student athlete really honed my leadership skills in coaching. And so it was a really nice transition to administration where I thought I could impact more students than just being in the classroom.
You were also the district's human resource director and the Title IV coordinator. What responsibilities do these positions entail?
Well, I think, excuse me, I shared a lot about my HR responsibilities. As the Title IX coordinator, Title IX was passed and revised in 2019. And so it really is about making sure that there's no sexual discrimination or sexual harassment in the school environment, in the athletic department. And so it's my job to investigate any claims of harassment, to make sure our male and female athletic programs are equal and that we have the same number and that the finances are equal across the board. And it really involves both student and staff discrimination or harassment. I take that job very seriously. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of discrimination or harassment in our district. I'm very proud of that. I think our staff really do a good job in maintaining the highest level of integrity and professionalism.
Out of any school district in Pittsburgh, why did you choose Plum, and what do you believe sets Plum apart from other schools?
Well, I chose Plum because when my mother lives in Lower Borough. I grew up in Lower Borough, and I wanted to come closer. I was living in the South Hills and working in the South Hills. And when the position was posted for Plum, I did a lot of research and looked at the website, looked at the 6 strategic goals that Dr. Hyland, as the superintendent, had established, looked at the district logo, and I don't think I have it in my office. But the integrity, the commitment to students, that students are at the center of everything we do, that we are relentless in our pursuit of a quality education for all students, no matter what their disability is or where they come from. And the more research I did, the more I was interested in applying for the position, because it met both personal goals with being closer to my family, and it met my professional goals. It's just a standout school district, and it has unlimited potential. Dr. Hyland has set the direction and built the foundation, and we can be one of the best in southwestern Pennsylvania, if not the state, in time.
And in this past year, Plum Borough School District has adopted the Rachel's Challenge. What is the program, and how has it been implemented throughout the district?
Rachel's Challenge is probably one of the best programs in my 40 years in education that I've ever seen. I've done a lot of Oveus bullying training, responsibility trainings, and different programs for students. But this program, I think, has reached over, I think, 20 million people. It's grounded in positivity, and I think that it really is looking at replacing bullying and violence and other types of negativity that often occur when you have 1,200 adolescents together, or 700 kindergarten through fourth graders in one place. It really replaces that with acts of kindness, compassion, and understanding of other people's where they come from. I think in Rachel's Challenge we were asked to look through people, because we never know where people come from or what their personal journey has been and what they've experienced or what they may be experiencing in life. And so reaching out, those little acts of kindness, saying hello, inviting someone who is sitting alone to the cafeteria table, finding the best in others, not looking at negativity, but finding something positive in every person every day, that changes a culture, and it changes a community. And I think, we have such a strong sense of pride here. I really think that the students are proud of being Plum students. They've chosen positive influences. Our little kids look up to our student athletes. They look up to our kids that are involved in the musical. Our musicals sell out every year, and you have to get your tickets early. All of our arts, when you look in the building at the talent of our kids, it's finding those talents and those gifts that everyone has and sharing that. Yesterday I was in the high school faculty meeting, and with this upcoming Rachel's Challenge, people are going to kids are going to be asked to recognize something positive about one of their classmates. And I participated it with all of the high school staff yesterday, and it really made me feel good recognizing one of the teachers who Mr. Fischel was singing her praises in our administrative meeting. And I hope it makes her feel good, because she didn't know that he was talking so positively about her teaching and her impact and her caring relationship and how the kids love her classes. And so I needed to write that down and capture that so that she knew. And hopefully it'll make her smile when she receives that today.
And lastly, this is probably her favorite question. If you have any superpower, what would it be?
You know what, I looked at superpowers, and I love swimming, and so I always wanted to be like Aquaman and be able to breathe underwater. But I really think it would be elemental control. And the reason it would be you guys are, that's you? Well, and I think of it, I want to be able to impact global warming. I mean, our planet is for my boys and their families beyond. And we've done such irreparable damage already that I think it would be elemental control. The other one, because I just love speed, might be super speed, because You know, I think when you make a mistake, and we all do, and I make mistakes, and sometimes I stick my foot in my mouth, and it's like, oh my God, Denise, like, did you just say that? So with super speed, I could kind of erase time and not hurt someone because of what I said, because I opened my mouth too soon and I didn't think before I spoke. So, Dad, you hear that? My dad used to always tell me, Denise, think before you speak, think before you speak. So, Dad, I'm acknowledging it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Ms. Zedlock. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you very much, Jake. I really appreciated our time together.
Hi, I'm fellow student Zachary Fulton, and I'm here with Administrator Dr. Zarmak. How are you doing today?
Good, Zach. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. We just came here to ask you a couple of questions today, so let's just fire away. What's your day like in the beginning of the school year opposed to the end of the school year?
Honestly, they're both the most hectic times, exciting times as far as getting the kids back into school and making sure everything's ready to go and prepared. At the end of the school year is probably the busiest time, but also the most rewarding time as far as seeing the kids graduate and their excitement moving on after Plum High School.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited too. How is the interaction with the students different when you are an administrator rather than a physical education teacher?
At times my role is definitely different, but at times it's not. I still have to relate to the kids and build relationships with them. You know, I joke I went from the guy that everybody loved at elementary phys ed overnight to becoming the guy that everybody didn't like to see as an assistant principal at the high school. But you know, I still try to relate to the kids as best that I can and just have them learn from whatever situation that's going on. So it has its pluses and minuses, but it's still important to build those relationships with the kids.
Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job so far. What are the main areas of improvement for the school?
Right now is we're trying to get the kids, you know, a lot of the restrictions have been coming off of with COVID, so just trying to get them to enjoy their school experience and also increase the academic rigor at the same time, kind of get back on track as best as we can moving forward.
If you could characterize yourself in 3 words, which words would you choose to describe yourself?
I would say organized, personable, and self-driven.
I like that, I like that. What was the journey of getting your doctorate's degree like for you?
It was it's funny that you asked me that. I was actually just talking about that today. Looking back, I don't know how I did it, but it was something that was important to me, you know, and also to show my kids education's important, and you always want to improve no matter what. So it was challenging. I have 4 daughters at home, so balancing work, family, and school was tough, but it was definitely worth it.
That's good. What is the funniest thing that happened to you recently?
Well, being today is April Fool's Day, I was recently in the hallway and I had my hand out. I was talking to kids and just with the way my hand, I talk with my hands. I had my hand out. A student walked past when my hand was out and said, "Hey, April Fool's," and put a lollipop wrapper in my hand. It was like perfect timing on the student's part. We had a good chuckle out of it, so I appreciated that today.
That's good, that's good. And last question, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
To fly?
Yeah, I think that would be cool, just to kind of cruise around, see everything from an aerial view and different vantage point, learn from there. So definitely to fly. What would yours be?
It's either flight or invisibility.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah, thanks. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Back to you guys in the studio.
Hi, my name is Mara Pina. I'm a TV3 production student, and today I'm with Deputy Assistant Superintendent Dr. Wish Walsh. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So first, explain your district position and your daily tasks.
Okay. First of all, my position as the Deputy Superintendent is that I'm responsible for oversight of all K-12 operations. So everything that happens within the district on a day-to-day basis, which would include curriculum, instruction, the assessments that you take, the professional development that our teachers receive. I'm also the district safety and security coordinator. So I'm responsible for overseeing safety and security, which includes our school police officers, our supervisor of police, and also working with our technology department. So not only is it the physical security within the buildings, the drills that we run, the bus evacuations, the severe weather drills that we'll be practicing in the next month, but also cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is becoming an area where a lot of school districts are now focusing their attention to make sure that our networks are safe and that they're being used appropriately. I'm also responsible working with Mr. Oletta in oversight of technology. Over the years, that means the one-to-one Chromebooks that all the students have. It's making sure we have a robust network that teachers and our faculty and students can log on, the new Promethean boards that are in the classrooms, and making sure we have the capacity to enhance teaching and learning. I also serve as the district assessment coordinator, which may not be the most popular job in the district. I'd make sure that the Keystone exams and the state assessments are timely delivered to the building and the protocols are followed. And I work with Dr. Iera, who is our homeless liaison. There's times where there's happenings within a district, there might be a fire, or we have families that are displaced, to make sure that the boys and girls that attend school here have the support they need to continue their education and make sure that things are happening in a positive way during their transitions.
Okay. Recently, the district has added Rachel's Challenge. What is the program and how has the outcome been in our schools?
I think Rachel's Challenge has been received well over the rollout over the last few months. Initially, part of the concern was having building-based programs where if you were in a K-4 building, we had a sports theme. And if you were at Holiday Park, you had champs. And if you were at O Block in the high school, you probably have seen those rubrics that were posted around in regards to expected behavior. What we really liked about Rachel's Challenge is that it was bigger than a particular building. It's a district initiative, no matter if you're in kindergarten or 12th grade. We're all focused on making sure that our buildings and the environment in which we learn in or work in are a positive place for not only students, our faculty, but visitors that may come in. And the goals with Rachel's Challenge of looking for the best in others. Some of the activities really have asked students to reach out to their classmates to make them feel more welcomed. A new student entering the building, making sure there's supports and students that are reaching out to make it a smooth transition. To dream big. Here at the high school, I'm sure many of the students are thinking of their next steps and what those next steps would be. And looking at positive influences and treating each other with kindness. We believe that these aren't only building goals, these are district goals. And hopefully that we're going to move this initiative from our building out to our community so that we're all speaking the common language, and we want to create the best not only school environment but borough that we can where people live and work. Okay.
What is your educational background after high school?
Okay. Well, first of all, I graduated from Plum High School. It's hard for me to believe that was 35 years ago. After high school, I graduated from Penn State. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Education. From there, I received my master's degree in Administration and Policy from the University of Pittsburgh. I've also attended many other initiatives at the University of Pittsburgh, the Principals Academies, the Advanced Leadership Academies, and I received my doctorate from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, where my dissertation focused on teacher evaluations, supervision, and making the connection between principals conducting walkthroughs in classrooms and the professional growth of teachers. So it was 11 years of schooling after I graduated from high school.
Wow. What are you proud of to represent the Plum School District?
I am proud. As I shared with you, I graduated from Plum. I grew up in the community. I remember walking these halls. And for me, not only personally, but professionally, to come back to my hometown and to be in a position where I can help move the district forward, it is fulfilling, and I find it personally and professionally very satisfying.
As a Plum alumni, what is one of your favorite memories from high school?
I have many favorite memories from high school, but most of them stem back to the teachers I had here at high school. I remember my family moving into Plum and when I was in 4th grade, and Mrs. Burkett was my teacher at Harding Elementary. And when I say Harding Elementary, usually people are scratching their heads and saying, I don't remember a Harding Elementary. But just how she made me feel welcome coming into the district. I've talked about Mr. Clark, who was my 6th grade teacher at Center. He's also my basketball coach when I was in elementary school. Just the lessons that I've learned in his classroom. Mrs. De Palma was my English teacher when I was at Pivot Junior High. And the lessons that she taught me, I still apply to this day when I put, pen to paper. Mr. Beidel was another teacher that I just remember looking forward to going to his classes. I have a lot of positive memories, and including my coach, Mr. Larco. I played volleyball here at Plum, and just the opportunities and the environment they created for the students. It's some of my favorite memories. I would also be remiss if I didn't say the lifelong friendships that I had. To this day, some of my closest friends are my friends that I walk the halls with here at Plum High School. And they're just lifelong friends, and we still keep in contact with each other. Interestingly enough, when I accepted the job back at Plum, I was receiving text messages and emails from all over the country of people that I graduated with. Those are the fond memories I have of graduating and returning back to Plum.
If you could be a teacher instead of an admin, what class would you teach and why?
Okay. Well, I was an elementary teacher. I started my career working with elementary students. I have a love of literacy. Early in my career, I taught English language arts. I also was a math teacher. And just the thought that as an elementary teacher of building those foundational skills and those literacy skills and building such a foundation for my students to be successful as they matriculate through school, I've always found that to be very fulfilling and very rewarding. So I would have to say going back to my elementary roots.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Walsh, for taking time out of your day to let us interview. Hope you have a good rest of the school year.
I will. Thank you.